but then again, in a very optimistic way.
Yep, yep, very important. All right, so we are live. When you hear that sound every Wednesday from 11, then you know it's time for you to discuss Soul Sisters. Well, more like discuss topics on Soul Sisters. And once you hear Soul Sisters, you know it has to do with things that revolve around the woman. In other words, she's at the center of whatever it is that we will be discussing on the show every Wednesday from 11 till 11:50. This is the station that loves music and loves life. This is Smooth 98.1. The time now is 5 minutes past 11 o'clock. It's Wednesday, the 6th of March. So, yes, that's what we do on Wednesdays, 11 till 11:50. And again, you are welcome. My name is Oluwaseun. You can watch us or be a part of the conversation in a number of ways. We're currently streaming live to YouTube, and that is youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can also join on WhatsApp if you have anything to say or a question to ask. WhatsApp line is 0809 444 0981. I think you should have that number saved, by the way, as well as our call line, which is 01 448 9981. And you can simply take a walk to our website where we have the option of listening live. So it means you don't have to be in Lagos for you to listen to Smooth 98.1. That said, we already have the flyer on our WhatsApp status, and it's to give you an idea of what we will be discussing today. Last week, we dealt with the topic of catcalling, and I dare say the reactions and responses were quite interesting, for the lack of a better word, shocking, but not entirely shocking. Today, we are going to another side of the conversation, not catcalling conversation. We're talking about entrepreneurship, especially how you can build resilience as a female entrepreneur. And my guest is no stranger to the Smooth FM family. She's been here a number of times on a number of shows, from Soul Food to Business Express to Drive, actually. But just to give you an idea of who she is and why we're having this conversation with her, I wouldn't call her a serial entrepreneur. I think I should call her a serial successful entrepreneur, because she has a chain of business, and you can call her a reformer and innovator in the confectionery space. Firstly, she's a professional baker with over 20 years of baking. And then you can call her a domestic grains advocate. At a time when everybody loves the taste of wheat flour, she decided to go and bring something out of millet. So she pioneered the signature millet bread, where instead of wheat, you have millet as the foundation. And she's won a number of awards and been recognized in a number of ways. In fact, in 2019, she was one of the top winners at the Nutri Pitch 2019, which is a world food program that is about using innovative things. And she came up with innovating coconut nectar as a sweetener in baked goods. So many things to say about her, but we want to understand how she has been able to ingrain resilience. Ingrain. That is some play on words. I'm talking about the founder of Cake Flair, and she is Chef Jules, but she is Juliet Aibe. Good morning. You're muted. Muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Oh, good morning, Lagos. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. Good morning. How are you? Good to have you here.
Great. I'm doing great. And you look awesome.
Oh, thank you. So how has it been going through the business space and doing your thing? I mean, let's even start with the reception. I remember starting that conversation with you on Soul Food at some point. How was the reception to the millet grain as a substitute, or at least an addition to the wheat flour for bread? How has it been, or for pastries generally?
I think it's a potpourri of reactions, both positive and negative, and some skeptical. But when the going gets tough, the tough simply gets going. I think, it's with anything in life, change is something that we don't really embrace so quickly. But there's been really great reception to it from some quarters, and it's still my job to ensure that all the actors in the value chain see the full potential, and then we can drill down into tapping that, into bringing that into our lives as a part of it, So, but yeah, I think it's been a fantastic journey of just, venturing, seeing the possibilities, opportunities, and also learning the obstacles so that one can tackle them head on. So yeah, it's been quite a journey so far.
If I sound really excited about obstacles, somebody listening might feel, is she okay? Is she a psychopath? But I'm excited about learning about the obstacles you've encountered, not just in terms of advocating for millets, but also generally in you being an entrepreneur and a founder in a number of ways. So I cannot wait to dive into that right after this. So in case you're joining us for the first time, this is Soul Sisters on Smooth 98.1. We are discussing how to build resilience as a female entrepreneur, and we think you should stay with us. This is for your kind of music and my kind of music. So all right, so we just have a quick ad break and we'll be back.
Okay.
Why every time I want chop like this, I put better things inside. Oh my God, Polly. Put it on.
No, 2 pages.
Because my people, good life, now life chop better. All your food with correct vegetables. From seasonal with
Want to check.
We are back, and I can see you on your good.
You love music.
All right. Everything she said, you should keep listening to the Love Music, Love Life radio station. But we love more than music. We love your growth, your development. We love it when you're in a better shape mentally. So that's why we have these discussions and these talks on different segments. Right now, you're listening to Soul Sisters. It's the show you listen to every Wednesday from 11 till 11:50, and we discuss issues that the woman face, as well as how she can navigate it and move ahead. Today, we are talking about building resilience as a female entrepreneur. My name is Oluwaseun, and my guest is Chef Jules. So before the breather, she was telling us about how she has been doing well in her space, but there have been a number of obstacles. So before I get to the obstacles, which are somewhat exciting, I'd like to ask for your story in terms of how you got to this stage. While I was talking earlier about what you have been doing, I said you have over 20 years of experience in the baking space as a baker. And beyond being a baker, you've been able to do other things. For instance, you had box mixes. You went on to have box mixes and other things. So before you started baking and then you decided to have other things that you do. What are some of the things that you have learned, those lessons that you have learned as an entrepreneur and then as a female entrepreneur?
Wow, fantastic question. Let me just start on a high by quoting what Albert Einstein famously said a while back. He said that in the midst of every crisis lies great opportunity. And I think my own journey has been one of being a keen observer, and from observing the environment, where I fit in and how I operate, I realized too that, these products we're all celebrating here now have evolved because I kind of looked at my community and listened to what the issues were. Because I always say that being an entrepreneur is always about seeing light where others see darkness. So problem solving is one key element of being an entrepreneur. Maybe that's why I get into entrepreneurship, because I saw certain gaps in the food sector that I felt, I could tackle head on. And also being someone who has, gone through schooling and, learned all kinds of stuff, I wanted to also put those things to practice. We've learned things like, theories of demand and supply, what they call product market fits and stuff like that. So you want to be able to see how you can put those things into practical use. So each time there is even a crisis, it's because there's a problem, right? And so as entrepreneurs, our job is to solve problems. Back in the day, maybe people thought you want to go into business to hammer. I always say that's like the end goal of solving problems, not the beginning. So it should be like a result of having solved the problem as opposed to just going for the jugular, just go and hammer. So for me, The journey has been, I want to say big thanks to all my customers, all my cheerleaders, people who have asked me questions, Jules, what about this, what about that? So that has triggered a lot of questioning. And once you question yourself, what happens is your brain kicks in, goes to work to try and see how you can solve those problems. Of course, I'm talking about my industry. So even whether you're an engineer or whatever industry you operate as an entrepreneur, the issue in that space comes to you, and you as a an entrepreneur, I would say your middle name is like problem solving. So you want to go ahead and solve that problem. And for me, the journey of solving problems have also developed me in terms of curiosity, in terms of finding the resources, and also connecting with other actors in the value chain of that particular product or service, that we're dealing with. So it's not a one-man show. There are a lot of people behind the scene. It takes a village actually to, move the mountain, shift the goalpost, and try to, make impacts.
So I like how you talked about solving problems. And I'll read something that is a data. So globally, I'm sure you're not new to that statistic that women run about 50% of the jobs, or the 50% of entrepreneurs globally are women. So in terms of businesses that are created, let's say 50% of them are created by women. But now if you narrow it down to why they created this jobs or created this corporations, organizations, or they started this thing. According to the data that was released by Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, that's the Women's Entrepreneurship Report in 2022, so that's just barely 2 years ago, a study found out that over 70% of women in business said that it was lack of jobs that was the main motivation behind their startups, compared to 67% of men, just 3% difference. And I find it interesting because I had a conversation yesterday, still on entrepreneurship and scaling your business and all the remaining things involved. I realized that just like you said, it has to be that desire to solve problems. But what do you now say to those who just become accidental entrepreneurs, especially in sectors that you're not very well informed of? Because I was going to ask, if you were to think or talk about solving problems, what sectors or industry would you say these sectors have the most problems? And if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you should look at the sectors.
Okay, well, let me still correct a notion. It's not really essentially about going out to look for problems. As a matter of fact, what happens to you have what they call an entrepreneurial seizure. Something just hits you. I mean, I worked in a blue chip company for a bit before I actually left to pursue this. I mean, nobody wants to just go and be solving problems, like it is. But, you carry a burden. It just triggers, there's something triggers in you. It's almost like you're wired for something. And then when the problem arises, there's something kicks in. So nobody really goes out to say, I want to solve problems. We all want to enjoy life, have the good things of life, just, great goals and dreams and all that. However, in trying to find that inner peace and happiness, there's a trigger that happens. You see this problem and then you will move by it. Not every problem will move me. If, for example, there's no power supply or anything like that, and I have a generator or an inverter, I probably won't worry. So it depends on what you're wired to do. And that's one of the key things is self-awareness. Who are you? What drives you? What gives you joy? So in finding yourself, you automatically begin to figure out what problems you're designed to solve. And sometimes when you run away from it, he who runs from a fight lives to fight another day. You just keep encountering that. You see people who suffer, who are like activists, or people who are like advocates, or they're pushing certain causes. It could be as a result of a trigger in their childhood or an issue that they encountered that, it didn't sit well with them and they wanted to kind of figure out how they can solve. So it has to do with just how you're wired and, being in tune with yourself and listening to your environment. And so you begin to connect those dots, as you go through life. And also your life path, it just takes you through a jack, but it's not a straight line. Like, okay, go to school, get good grades at the job. And then, no, you go through stuff in life that you begin to wonder, why am I here? And so by the time you look back, you can connect the dots with what has happened in your childhood, maybe your teenage years, or your married years, or you're not married, or whatever it is that you have gone through life. You realize that they're all conspiring to help you find who you should be. And for me, working in an office was actually my dream. Working in an office, get a fat pay, a cushy job, and just settle down. That's everybody's dream, right? But then you now go through life, you realize that it's not working out like that. You just see yourself going through what I call the adventure of life. I always say like it's like a flowing river. When the flow of a river is impeded, what happens? It redirects. So in life, we go through all kinds of interruptions, impediments, and then we begin to build character, build clarity of purpose, and then we begin to push our own agenda through life. So I see being able to own a business as discovering yourself and then being able to solve that problem as a way of, making yourself relevant, in the environment. So it's not only entrepreneurs that do that. Even entrepreneurs, those who work in offices, also find a way to solve problems. So I wouldn't say we're just the sole, because people who work for me too, I mean, without them, I can't be where I am today. So it's an interconnection of finding purpose. And that's how you're able to know whether you are going to be like the arrowhead or the cheerleader. Pretty much, yeah.
Thank you. Now, as you were explaining that as well as your journey, I would say I had a mental image of a backpack where you had lots of tools in there that can help you to scale the mountain. Let's imagine that it's Mount Everest and you need to get to the summit. So there are things you need in there. Maybe your pickle, your axe, your whatever it is that you need, your rope. So now let's break it down into bits. In your backpack, tell us some of those tools you have in there. In other words, some of those character traits you've been able to form or build and how you were able to build them, because we're talking about resilience. And I dare say, having been in business for over 20 years, resilience has to be one of them, considering the economic climate of Nigeria.
Okay, first of all, that's a very, 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 very important question you asked. Building resilience has to do with adaptation, either you're mitigating against certain forces or you're actually amplifying opportunities. So I would say integrity is one thing that I have learned to build. It didn't just come, I say it's an acquired character. We're not naturally going to just be people of integrity just like that. Things will challenge you that will make you decide whether you want to go the right way or the shortcuts. So there's the right way and there's the shortcuts. So, and sometimes you want to find peace. I always say my greatest currency is not money, but peace of mind, because I feel like once I have peace of mind, I can be audacious when I come on your show like this and make a proclamation and say stuff, because I can back it up with real life experiences with substance, not just cheap talk. So I feel like integrity is something that I have built along the way. Initially, it wasn't like that. Sometimes maybe I offer a product or a service and the customer complains, I'll just kind of like, okay, try and defend myself, like, no, But over time, now, if you order any cake from us or you come to, we offer you a service and you're not satisfied, which is kind of, I can't really recall that has ever happened recently, but the issue is once you make a complaint, we just fix it. We don't try and say, okay, what happened? Or okay, I'll try and we just try and go ahead and okay, let's make you happy first. Because once a customer is not happy, don't try and be rationalizing with that customer. Just fix the problem and then you can go back and find out, okay, so what happened? So you fix before you start questioning. So you don't question and then fix. You fix first. So for me, I feel like making the customer happy is the number one reason why I say, what, I have to show integrity here. Be vulnerable, show integrity, be truthful, and also be an expert in your field. Acquire knowledge. And this thing, acquiring knowledge or skill or mastery is actually a process. It's not, it's a patient journey. It's not overnight. You see a lot of people want to do this crash course, want to learn how to bake in 3 days. You can learn the fundamentals in 3 days. But to build the skill and the mastery comes with practice. You trial and error. It's almost like a sinusoidal journey. You have some peaks and and some lows, and so you go through all of that, and then you begin to grow on that journey. And also, this issue of authenticity is something I think that we need to build in as entrepreneurs, as women especially. You don't want to be joining the crowd, tagging along, just going with what is trending or what is popular. While it's important to know what's trending and popular, you want to be able to say, okay, fine, who am I? Find yourself in that space. How are you going to be able to navigate all of that trend and pressure? So this thing about social pressure or even peer pressure are things that you want to tackle on the inside out. It comes from, are you comparing yourself with somebody else? Why are you doing that? Is it to learn better? Is it to be inspired? Because one of the the greatest flaws we human beings don't admit to is jealousy. So those are things we don't really admit to. So why you if you feel threatened by somebody, ask yourself why. Or maybe I mentioned Sheung Olusegun. I just have this system in my heart. I'm like, okay, why am I having that? There has to be you coming, into yourself. Like, okay, so why am I doing this? Why am I feeling like this? So that if there's a gap in your life, you want to go ahead and fix it than looking for a shortcut. So I always say, do what is right as opposed to, looking for the shortcuts. And also, a very, very important thing is collaboration. Um, we can't do it all. You don't know everything. I mean, I don't do everything in my business. There's some things I delegate, some things I outsource, some things, I also learn. I always say that the journey of an excellent entrepreneur is the journey of a lifelong learner. You want to learn at every point in time. I still take courses. I still learn, a few things I can just keep brushing me up on the journey. So building resilience has to do with also a mindset. It's a mindset shift. You want to have a paradigm shift from when things are going rough and tough. Ask yourself, why is it going rough and tough? Okay, what can I do to fix this problem? So I don't know, the need to constantly question yourself is a diehard need that you have to have if you want to be able to make a difference in your space, and you want to also find peace of mind. Because if you check when you have a seared conscience where you've become I always use that phrase, cognitive dissonance. You bury your head in the sand, you don't want to face the problem, you will just keep going around in circles because you will never find peace of mind. So I keep saying, once peace of mind is your currency of negotiation or bantering, you find out that you want to find that peace first. And so that peace drives you to make sure that you do things right, you speak the truth at all times, you're vulnerable, and you seek help, you ask for help. And trust me, even when you ask for help, not everyone's going to give you the help you're asking for. But at least in asking for help, you're opening up the universe to find a path for you to solve, problems. So I hope I'm not sounding too philosophical here, but I'm just trying to say
Oh,
that these are principles that you want to apply, to building resilience. And I must say, let me give some statistics here because it's not just all nice sounding talk. If you take a snapshot since before COVID or even after COVID, you see there's been efforts to try and fix this global decline in women economic inclusion and opportunity. And women-owned businesses have actually suffered higher rates of failure due to lack of equitable financial and government supports. And I can tell you that one of the things that have helped me build resilience is, okay, how can I keep my costs low? So that way, okay, I'm not spending too much. I can make a margin to pay my bills and then keep going. So you want to also be able to ask yourself, what kind of um, how do I say it now? What kind of information do I need to ensure that I bring my costs low? So you want to be able to also look at uh, people who have those skill set that you don't have and leverage on that as well. If you check I think the World Economic Forum, they had the 14th Global Gender Gap Reports. And I was shocked that they actually forecasted that, it would take 1,300 years for women to achieve gender parity instead of 99 prior to COVID. So you see, the bottom line is that women entrepreneurship is under greater pressure. And the reason for this gender, parity, is not far-fetched. Women are the ones who are caregivers. They're the ones who kind of man their homes. They're the ones who kind of, support other people. So we want to be able to make sure that we know who we are as women, and then we are able to leverage on important connections, in our society to make sure that we're able to, bridge that gender gap and then build resilience in how we run our businesses.
thank you very much for that beautiful explanation. I'm sure there is a lot more, but we'll take that right after this. And if you're joining us for the first time, you're not sure what you're listening to, it's Soul Sisters. Today, we're talking about female entrepreneurship and how to build resilience. After all, this is International Women's Month, or you can call it Women's History Month. And as much as you have a lot of women in business, are they really doing well? Or is a higher chance of the women-owned business to fold up quickly? Well, we'll tell you more about that after this.
Is Gloria Azia, and your tune 98.1 state. Madam Counselor.
Oh dear.
I love that.
Thank you. So everything pretty much just keeps holding up. Yeah.
Download the new Showmax app to stream The Counselor. Subscribe now from 1,200 naira. Sign up at showmax.com. Showmax, streaming for Africa. Now, this is how your day starts.
Yes.
Morning.
Let's have infotainment show with just the right programming you need. Finally, don't forget traffic ahead. Around 6.
I feel like I'm rambling.
Rambling?
Because the question just come like, oh my God, I'm thinking on my feet. Please, next time, just give me your question. Let me try. Hey, I think we're back.
So we're back.
Okay.
Love music and love life. This is Smooth 98.1. Soul Sisters is the name of the show. It's 30 minutes past 11 o'clock. My name is Oluwaseun. My guest is Chef Jules, and you can catch us on YouTube. YouTube.com/smooth 91 FM Lagos is the channel, the YouTube channel. You should subscribe to us and stay subscribed. Click on the notification bell so that whenever we go live, you can always see that and you can join the stream. It also means you can share with your family and friends. We've been talking about building resilience as a female entrepreneur, and you can ask your question via messages. WhatsApp line is 0809 444 0981. On WhatsApp, Chidozie says 50% of women are entrepreneurs. So who are these full-time stay-home mom, aka full-time housewives, who cross their legs in front of their TV, watching Telemundo and Televista? Some of these stats do not tally with our reality in Nigeria. They should be reviewed. You do realize some of these stay-at-home moms actually have businesses. They are part of the number. You don't necessarily need to have $1 million generating business for you to be called an entrepreneur. In fact, those women who are out there in their stores or their shops selling things are entrepreneurs. Now, according to that data, you tend to find women more in the retail sector as well, the wholesale sector as well. And in Nigeria, it says that women are more involved in the small and medium enterprises. So, yes, they get to watch TV, but they also get to run their job. And sometimes a lot of them run their businesses online, so they have time to cross their legs and watch TV. Clement Britishman says, good morning, Oluwaseun and your guest. Warm listening as always. Brilliant show always. But you have anything to say to what Chidozie said?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think that's a gender bias to just say that they just sit down, cross their legs. I'm sure these women are the ones that take their kids to school, ensure they have, their lunch boxes packed, and that their husbands' shirts are properly, ironed, and they ensure that even if they do have housekeepers, those housekeepers are towing the line, So managing a home is a full-time job. And I also think that any responsible man will also pay the wife to stay at home, because I know some men say, you know what, stay at home, I'll pay you. Why are you working? Do you understand? So I also feel like, see, I'm actually old school. I believe that if you already have a couple run a home, one should actually be more of the home minder, while the other one brings the BB provider. It's just that because we live in a fallen, broken world, these days, life happens and everything. So you want to make sure that you are securing your home front. So I don't think it would be fair to just say they sit down and watch Telemundo. We also need to have mental health balance, mental well-being. Watching TV is a way of relaxing. So you want to look at each person's situation, as opposed to just a blanket statement that women just stay back at home, or the housewives 50% stay. And if you check those who stay at home, they're probably selling stuff at home. Like, oh, they sell when they travel abroad, they bring in clothes and sell shoes and bags and stuff like that on the side. So yeah, I think no woman sits down and just crosses their leg right now. I can beat my chest on that. I mean, I have friends, who also stay at home, and I can tell you that they're the ones who are even pushing most of our businesses, like my box mixes. I have women say, Chef, let me take it to my church, let me take it to my women's meetings. And they do sell and make a profit from it. So yeah, I don't think it's okay to just sit back and just make a generalized statement like that. But then again, I get your point. You want to make sure that people are not just sitting down and just not doing anything. But I don't think this day and age anybody actually really does that. It may not be a 9 to 5 kind of job. It may not be an entrepreneur, but even those who take care of kids at home ensure that that home runs very well. And that's also a full-time job on its own.
Well, truth be told, though, there are some women who want to have that role of full-time housewife where they'll tend to the home. They will be in charge of it, but You also get to pay them allowances, like you said. There are
Exactly.
some who just want the soft life, in quotes. Depends on
Who
why they
doesn't?
want it. Yes, there are some who want to just escape from the
I want the
corporate nine
soft
to
life
five.
as well. I think why we also work, sometimes you don't want to also depend on what your husband gives you. You want to also have your power of choice. And so working has, you have various reasons why you're working. You want to have financial freedom. You want to have the power of choice. You want to be able to support your family as well. So I think there really any reason you give that adds not just to yourself, I think is a noble reason. And I don't think any one reason supersedes the other, really.
Thank you. Now we are talking about some of those things that need to be in your backpack if you want to be a female entrepreneur who's successful. And part of the points that Chef Jules has mentioned, you have integrity, very important. And I find this again quite intriguing because over the weekend on Breakfast in Bed, we were talking about artisans in Nigeria and how they never deliver. Their word is not their bond.
Mm.
They'll tell you, turn up tomorrow and come and collect your job, and you never get it until next year, or maybe on your sick bed. I am not sure. It's like integrity missed them when it was coming to earth, and I don't know
Mm.
why. So
Okay, and let me
integrity,
take a response to that as well. This issue of artisans not keeping their word. Yeah, it's true. And I think the reason why is because people always want linear answers. When are you coming tomorrow, 10 a.m.? I mean, I think if you've gone through business, you've maybe failed once or twice. I think you should adjust that to say, you know what, can you give me a time range? That way, this idea of integrity is not like it's not by saying I'll be there by 10 and you're there by 10. What if you got caught up in traffic? What if you got, you're not able to make it? I think the real practice of integrity is calling the person up, making sure there's communication with that person. Like, you know what, something came up, I can't make 10 o'clock. Can I come tomorrow? So the issue is engaging who you're providing a service to and ensuring that you are on the same journey with them. I think that's for me is how you show integrity in that kind of situation. Because sometimes Nigeria is a place where they close down Third Mainland Bridge and then you spend 3 hours in traffic. So you want to engage as opposed to just lying or just completely ignoring your clients. You want to call them ahead of time to say, you know what, it's not going to work at that time. Let's do this time. And sometimes Nigerian customers too can be quite difficult. Like, I don't care. Once I've paid money, that's it. Sometimes you want to also be empathetic. Like, okay, fine. Well, okay, so if or give incentive. If I don't meet up this timeline, I give you a discount. Also, for entrepreneurs, you want to give things like SLAs to kind of declare terms and conditions to doing a job, being clear about what you can deliver, and also not exceeding, or let me say, exceeding the expect, not over promising and then underperforming. I think that's one thing we also have to know. We're not superwoman, or superwomen, or we want to act like, oh, we can fix all the problems. So sometimes I think the vocabulary with which we communicate our services to is very important. Don't try and overpromise and then now under deliver. Rather under promise and then
over
over deliver.
deliver.
So that's how we should maintain
Mhm.
integrity.
Thank you. And still going back to those tools that should be in your backpack. And I say that as a listener, you don't have to be female for you to use those things. Yes, the women need to take it, but also these things are important to everybody who has a business or who has a plan or the mindset of becoming an entrepreneur. So integrity is one of them. Collaboration is also another. You should mention authenticity. It's definitely
Yeah,
one of those things that will help you prevents jealousy, which some have said is a gender specific trait, which I disagree with.
I
Anybody
disagree with
can be
that.
jealous.
Anybody
Men
can
can
be
be jealous,
jealous.
women can be jealous. But in terms of
Exactly.
being in the business place, you don't want a situation where you are losing your identity and becoming
True.
jealous over something that you could have worked on. So you want to be very clear on your authenticity. There is learning, which has to be a continuous progress,
Yeah.
continuous thing rather. Then you need to have maybe all through your lifetime as an entrepreneur, many paradigm shifts for you not to
Hmm.
fossilize. And
Absolutely.
very important that you calibrate your expectations.
Hmm.
Then you also have to keep your costs low. And part of the ways you can do that, definitely collaboration as well as relationship. You want to do that.
Mm.
What about
Social.
keeping
So.
your emotions in check?
Yeah, that's something you want to do with, you want to have some of accountability partnerships with people that you can feel safe with, and then you can just express, how you feel, tell them when you're feeling fearful or scared. I've been terrified some points when I couldn't, meet up a certain deadline. I had to reach out to people that I can trust and just going to open up, and they rallied around me and like supported me. So you want to be able to build social capital, somebody I really respect did say at some point, like, when it comes to this thing about financial equity, that it's not essentially about an absence of money, but many times a lack of friends. So it's not a lack of funds, but a lack of friends. But sometimes you want to be able to reinvent how a certain process should be accomplished. It's not essentially always about money. Yes, money is very important. I must tell you, get to a point where it is about money. But before you get there, check and be sure that, okay, that's the only reason, or that's the only thing you need. So I believe strongly that you want to build a network of people of similar values, people that you're on the same wavelength with, who can help you maybe in the advisory capacity behind the scene, or help you provide, support service that helps your own product or service be amplified so it can meet people's needs. So essentially, you want to be able to build that. I think right now that's one of the greatest tools we should have in our kitty: emotional intelligence, social capital. That helps even your mental health. You want to make sure that you have people that you can, go back on, especially now that hey, dollar is close to 2,000 naira. I don't know if it's come down now. So you want to be able to look
Yes,
at
it was one
how,
five.
yeah, well, imagine it's so high. So you want to look at, I think also, we shouldn't let this crisis go to waste. It's a time to look at how we can now begin to look at what do we have locally that we can dwell on. Even I think someone was talking about even our service providers, internet service providers. Why are we going abroad to get it? Why can't we have local entrepreneurs who already have that so we can buy from them? You don't want to be hosting your accounts from the foreign ones. You want to find the local ones as well. So this gives the local businesses opportunity to kind of step up to the game. I hear also that you have some companies who are living in Nigeria, instead of just feeling like doom and gloom. Okay, how can we close that gap? So it's always about looking for how we can close this gap. So I talk about mitigation and also adaptation. And now people don't like to adapt. They like, they like to do what they want to do. And sometimes we complain as a way of pity party, not because we really want to solve a problem. So if you do bring a solution, how readily are we able to embrace that solution? Are we going to be comparing it to what we're used to, or we're going to try and see how we can adapt and make it better? So I think we as a people need to also do a rethink on how we process all that's happening around us to ensure that we are also responding correctly, to all these issues, as opposed to just complaining, whining. And trust me, when you do pity party, it feels good, but it doesn't really solve the problem. And you want a real solution that gives you peace of mind. And so we need to engage on that level.
Well, at the end of the day, there is nothing called resilience without adaptation.
True.
Otherwise, you probably just sink yourself deeper and deeper. And then you look for people who will tell you what you want to hear in that moment with no headway. So you want to just get up. Yes, cry a little bit, it's okay, but get up and dust yourself. You'll be fine. Now, after this, I want to get your thought on how female entrepreneurs can draw the line between family and business, and how you have been able to do that. I assume you have been able to do that. You're listening to Soul Sisters on Smooth 98.1.
There. There's no line drawing. You don't draw any line. You just juggle it. It's a hazy mirage. There's no such thing as drawing any line. You can't draw lines. You want to build a support system around you. Okay, let me say that on anyone. I don't lose my train of thought.
Yeah, because at some point, there's this line that business pays when family and friends pay for the business and the services. So at the end of the day, as much as you are somebody's auntie, somebody's wife, they need to pay for those things they're taking. Otherwise, your business will crumble, and they'll be the ones who will say, it's not the business you just started last week or last year. So
I don't even think that we need to make a demand for them to pay. It's just the posture, how you've already positioned your business.
You'll be surprised that there are people who feel, you're my sister. Why should I pay for what I took from you? Love music and love life. This is Smooth 98.1. 43 minutes past 11 o'clock. This is Soul Sisters. We're talking about building resilience as a female entrepreneur. My guest is Chef Jules, that's Juliet Aigbe, and she's a baker, amongst other things. So we have listed a number of qualities, character, values that you need to put in your backpack for you to be a successful female entrepreneur, especially in Nigeria. And I'll go over that list again for you. There is integrity, there is collaboration, there is authenticity, Learning has to be on your mind, and always you need to have a number of paradigm shifts. If things are not going well, you need to adjust. And there is a part where you need to collaborate so much. You also need to build and nurture your relationships. You want to develop emotional intelligence. And if resilience should be part of what you look forward to, then adaptation must be a must. Now, before the breather, I said, as women, there is the natural inclination for you to want to be the superwoman. Maybe you run a food business and someone is hungry. They come around, you give them a plate of rice today. Tomorrow, you give them a plate of beans. On whose account? So, how do you draw the line between family and business to make sure that your business does not sink?
Okay, well, one of the great things about putting a business together is being able to establish corporate governance, or governance pretty much. Whether it's corporate or not, governance, where you already have who does what. When people come into the business to buy, they don't really encounter me directly. And even those who want to buy and they encounter me directly, I just tell them the price. So I feel like I cannot put a business process in place and violate it myself. That would be pride. So I am also subject to the business, operational policy and culture. So if someone reaches out and say, okay, I can't afford to pay for this. Of course, there's also the idea of doing what they call CSR, or giving some. You want to have, a portion of your business that also gives without recourse, without, trying to get paid for it. So yeah, we really have to do that as a people, as a community. During COVID, we actually came together in my community in Antony Village, and we all contributed funds, food, to people who could not really meet up. Yes, we have to do that. However, if, for example, my sibling comes into the bakery and maybe just thought, okay, Chef Joe's sister or brother, and I want to pick, my staff cannot respond and say, okay, take the bread and go, or take the cake and go. They will have to pay. If they call me and say, I can't afford to pay for it, I'll ask, okay, when are you going to pay for it? Or, okay, I want you to give it, ask me outrightly, you want me to give you, I will have to pay from my own pockets. But that doesn't really happen so frequently because why? Of how I've already operated the business. I do give discounts. I give discounts. There are many ways to make people happy without just saying you must pay 100%. You give discounts if you buy more than one. Or sometimes you have to learn to just say no. I think saying no is one thing that gives you the greatest joy and happiness in life when you can do that frequently than just saying yes. Because if you become a yes man, you become a doormat and then you become burnt out and you're not serving yourself any good or even your family and friends. So being able to say no is the greatest skill you must acquire as a business owner so that you can keep your business going and then still be able to serve people very well.
Thank you very much. And I do hope that somebody picks out one or two things and you implement that. Wilson from our papa says, this is not the first time I am listening to Madam Cake Flair. Madam Cake Flair on Smooth FM. She always makes sense. And each time I learn something new. Well, thank you for
so
listening. Well, it's now 47 minutes past 11 o'clock, means we have to wrap up the conversation. But in few words, if you have anything to say, I mean, there were a number of things we would have talked about. You mentioned it's funding is definitely one of the things that keeps a business alive, be it the one run by a man or a woman. So keeping your costs low is definitely one of the ways you can at least make do with the little fund that you have. But are there other ways you think that they can raise money to keep their business in operation?
One of the things that naturally people would suggest is bootstrapping, which is what I have been doing. I did get, some grants here and there, which are never really enough, but yeah, there are ways in which you can actually, and I think we should have even touched on that. How can you build resilience, financially in your business? One way is you have to ask. Then number two, you want to be able to make sure that what is the use of these funds. Sometimes we put things down that we don't really need. What is the use? What do you want to use the funds for? Once you can itemize that clearly, I tell you, there are people out there who have funds and are looking for where to put it, even in this situation. I hope people made money during the war. So you want to be able to find out in this situation, how can my product solve problems? And if he's not going to solve the problem, what product can solve the problem that you can provide? So you want to tweak your products, and then need to have pivoted from bread to box mixes. Bake your bread yourself, because I cannot sell a loaf of bread and make just 20 naira margin. It's a waste of my time. So I want to sell the flour to use to bake the bread at home, or you want to sell to bigger bakery factories. So there are ways, and to be vulnerable here, I must say that you want to look at the margin. If the margin is not making sense for you, please pivot. Don't just say, what would they say? It doesn't matter what anybody says. You see, this is not going to be profitable for you. Pivot it, change it, or you can no longer be an entrepreneur. Go and get a job. You don't have to say, because I'm not my own boss, so I can't go back. It's not going back. You're going forward. You're failing forward, right? And so when you're able to garner enough resources, you can come back again and do it. So no, you're not running anybody's race. You're running your own journey. So you don't want to, be under pressure to do what people are saying. Do what comes from the inside out, and then be able to make sure that, you're in a good place. You need to be in a good place for you to tackle what is coming. A lot of things are going to come. How are you going to tackle it? So you want to be in a good place emotionally and financially as well. We are all going through the financial crunch, yes. So you want to be able to cut on some of the products you're selling. If they're not going to be bringing in the margins, cut it off, switch, or find someone that you can outsource to, and then make sure that you are going lean. A lean strategy at this time is really great. If you cannot go lean, collaborate. And if you cannot collaborate on certain things, make sure you put your foot down the price point and don't bulge. So that way you don't, shoot yourself in the foot and then you're left, to your own whims and caprice. So it's important to be able to understand the situation and then break it down to find different solutions to it. There's no one size fits all.
Well, with these few points of ours, we hope that we have been able to convince you and not confuse you that you can build resilience as a female entrepreneur. You just need to get the right tools and, let's say the right ingredients in place for you to actually do that. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you, Chef Jules. Always.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to come around.
Your handles again?
Okay, you can reach me at Cake Flair. That's our cake brand. Or personally, you can reach me at Chef Jules Official. Chef Jules doesn't have an EO. CHEFJULS. Chef Jules Official. That's my Instagram handle. And our website is cakeflair.ng. CAKEFLAIR.ng. That's our website. And we learned that social media went down yesterday. So I say have your own identity. You want to reach us anytime on cakeflair.ng or on Instagram at cakeflair or on Twitter, now called X, at cakeflair as well. And that's how you reach us. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And next week, we're done for today on the topic of female entrepreneurship as well as resilience. Now, next week will be reverting, I dare say, because we'll be talking about the bias against women when it concerns housing. Why would you not give your house to a woman? Because she's a woman. That's what we'll discuss on Soul Sisters next week. So, Soul Brothers, you know that you're definitely involved in that conversation. Get ready. Next week, 11 till 11:50 on Smooth 98.1. However, 12 p.m. is the time for Casbah, where I will be playing you all the great African music right on the Love Music, Love Life radio station. Stay with us.
Is that the end?
That's the end.